Iain, first of all, tell me, as being chairman of Portsmouth Football Club, all you thought it, perhaps dreamt it would be?
Yeah, and more, I think, really. You and I have known each other a lot of time, for a long time, haven't we? Voice of the Terraces, I don't know, mouth of the Terraces, perhaps they call me, wouldn't they, at some stage of the game. It's been fantastic. It's a real privilege, a real honour. I know people keep thinking, well, that's a kind of soft thing to say, but, you know, I'm enjoying it. I'm putting lots of effort into it. It's great to be around people like you and other people that love this football club, so it's fantastic.
Was it hard, as it sounded, actually reading about it, getting to the stage where you all took over?
Tougher. I think that nobody really believed just how close we were on a number of occasions to just losing. In fact, early on, we weren't even considered. I mean, the reality of life is that we put a business plan in, a lot of that down to the work of people like Ashley and Mark and Mick before I actually finally got involved, which sat gathering dust on the Football League's table whilst they tried to analyse and I think sort of shoe in the Chanrai offer almost every which way that they possibly could. And that's the point at which I got most irritated, most angry and probably most determined, but it was much tougher for us all than you'd ever believe.
When you look around now, you see people like yourself, you see Ashley Brown, you see Mike Hall, and the characters that have been around here for an age, and they've been quietly fighting the revolution for years, haven't they?
Yeah, I just think we're doomed, actually, looking at those people. No, I mean, the reality of life is that this has actually been going on for a long, long time, hasn't it? And a lot of effort. I mean, I don't think it's possible to measure just how much effort's gone in by an awful lot of people, almost too many to mention. It's a bit like an Oscar speech, this. You'd always forget somebody, but you know, from the people that are organising things like today's fun fair out there, which is great. We couldn't have done that a year ago, could we? To people that are actually wrote the prospectus, to people that have been raising money, to manning the buses, all kinds of fundraising projects. Mike Dyer, our legal beagle, who he and I sort of became almost what I think there were rumours about us being romantically involved at one stage of the game. But it's an incredible thing to have done. It's bound to have taken its toll on a number of us, but we've achieved it. And I think that once you achieve it, all that hurt, all that emotion, all that anger, all that frustration, it just dissipates. And now you're just left with a great bunch of people, a great set of fans, and a great football club, and that's one hell of a result, isn't it?
Now, you and I met back in 1998. And you had made a significant contribution then. So tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks for that one, John. Yeah, I think you're referring to the time that there was this kind of similar embarrassment, and I think it was an embarrassment for the football club that was post Jim Gregory, great football man, during the reign of Prince John, his son, who wasn't really into football, and surrounded by a group of people, Terry Venables, what was his name, Ashley, Eddie Ashby, and other people perhaps whose names should remain nameless, who were all jockeying for position in this very room. It was a very unpleasant place to be. It was really like coming to a bar mitzvah with on a camel, really. It was pretty a horrible kind of environment. There were factions everywhere. It was difficult as a fan, even though at that stage of the game I was a reasonably successful businessman, to come to terms with what was really going on. And what was going on is the same that's just happened here. People were in it for themselves and not in it for the football club. To the point where we had a rather embarrassing situation, you'll remember it only too well, where we signed a guy called Matt Svensson, who had actually turned up at his home airport on 3 separate occasions to get on a plane, only to be told that he should stay where he was, because the transfer hadn't gone through. And it was at that point that somebody approached me. In fact, it was Terry Venables who approached me and said, would I be prepared to fund the transfer? Which after some thought, I did. And then we recruited Matt Svensson for the football club. I never got to meet him, by the way. I got to talk to a number of agents, as you could well imagine. But at the end of the day, the deal was done directly between myself and the chairman of Elfsborg, who I'm still in contact with today. And so it was a good outcome. We then had the Viking parade, didn't we, if you remember, with good old Ken Bates in Chelsea. And that started really my involvement financially, which then led on to me being asked to put further money into the football club, which clearly I was considering, but it was apparent even then that there were people behind the scenes, for some reason or another, just didn't want me involved. I mean, I can understand you can't be everybody's cup of tea, but I don't think the people had, as we now know historically, the best endeavours of the football club at heart when they made that decision. So we had a rather traumatic afternoon and evening here, didn't we, John, that you were privy to, when there was quite an upset and a fracas between me and an individual, which lasted about 3 minutes, didn't it, in round one? And I'll be honest with you, I went away devastated, not just by what had taken place, but by the attitude of people who didn't have a reason and didn't give me a reason for trying to stop the one person at that time that I think did have the football club at heart, coming in and be involved in the football club.
And the crazy thing, as it says somewhere in today's programme, you probably contributed more than any single director here has out of his own pocket over probably half a century.
Yeah, if it says that in the programme, wasn't me that said that, didn't it?
I said that.
Oh, you said that. Okay, well, that's very kind of you. I've never looked at it that way. I mean, I started coming here in 1960 as an 8-9-year-old from Paulsgrove, from a fairly dysfunctional background, I've got to say. And it was my Disney World. And I've loved the club since then, as you well know. That period we've just related to was like going through a divorce for me. It was awful, and I've not been through a divorce personally, and I never want to do that. But if I've contributed because I've wanted to, and I've contributed openly and honestly for the right reasons, and that's where I am today. I learnt the hard way, I think, the first time round, that football's an unusual game, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. This experience is altogether different. I think what we've done here is we've usurped the kind of people that behave badly in the first instance, in fact, as they were doing when we finally took over the football club.
Everybody at the moment has an appetite for this season, and it's all a great feel-good factor. Somewhere along the line, that honeymoon period might run out. Yeah. How do you plan for the future? What are the plans for the future?
Well, I think you're right, John. I mean, we mustn't stop people being optimistic and having fun, because it's been a long time since they have. I mean, I think the last season that I enjoyed most of all, and you probably did as well, was the season we went up, what I call the Harry and Jim season, the famous song that rang round the ground. We'd like to try and reinvent that, really. But you're quite right. The division that we're going into is tough. The division that we're going into is going to be the biggest match on the calendar for any side that we play home and away. We've put together a competitive side. I think people think that we're the Manchester United or maybe even the Manchester City of this division and have spent huge amounts of money on our squad. The facts of life, we haven't, and we aren't. We're probably maybe 6th or 7th in terms of the spend on the team itself. Because let's face it, our job is to run the club within its means. And there's a lot of things that need to be done to the club other than just the first team, although obviously that has got to be the most important. So how do you manage expectation? Very simple. Expectation is that we don't drop out that division, which I don't think is an option or even likely to happen. That we compete somewhere near the top of it. I think anybody that thinks that promotion, as the bookmakers seem to think, is automatic, is daft. But I think if we can get somewhere around the playoffs and play good football and make everybody feel that once upon a time now that they're back owning their club, being part of their club, feeling part of their club, being engaged, that's the best that we can hope for in the short term. Long term, we need to improve the stadium. We need to have our own training ground. We need to completely revamp the infrastructure that we took over, which doesn't exist at all. And we need to make absolutely sure that what happened here never happens again.
And your reward, of course, for all those labours that you've gone through is you're just about to be dunked by Pompey fans. What would have happened to the real unpopular characters?
Well, I'm a bit concerned about the piranha in the tank, because apparently they're going in for my particular dunking. I could look at it as a baptism, couldn't I, really? Yeah, the fact that one of my co-investors has actually twittered today, that, or whatever they call it when they do something on a Twitter, that they'll pay £100 for anybody who can keep me in there for half an hour, and I think they mean under the water, is not helping very much. And I've been asked too often this morning what time I'm on, and so it's probably, by the time you've actually played this, it's probably going to be posthumous, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh dear. Iain, it's a pleasure to work with you, a pleasure to talk to you, and a pleasure to have you here.